And I suppose finally, to the final half of your question, there's no need to depart the country in order to get an offshore 309 granted based on current rules. Okay, so there were changes that were implemented to how the department approve offshore partner visa applications. It used to be the case that you had to depart the country. So, your wife previously would have had to leave the country in order to get that granted. But thankfully, as things stand at the moment, they still have these, let's say, interim flexible arrangements in play to allow 309s to be granted to people onshore. So, therefore, there's no need for her to ever have to leave, because there's no need for her to leave now because you have the option of applying for another application, and there's no need for her to leave later when it comes to actually getting the 309 granted. In terms of expediting the case, I mean, unfortunately, there's nothing I can say that will definitively lead to them finalizing the case. There's nothing I can say that will tick all the boxes and mean they're going to process and finalize the application. But if you've already responded to a request, if you have clicked the button that says, I have provided everything that's been requested. So there's a button that pops up in the application checklist when you receive a request for information. And that button is to say, I have given you everything you've requested. Press that button. From what we understand, that triggers, some type of notification system on the department's end. And eventually a case officer is going to get that, and they're going to see you've given them what they've requested. In terms of you being requested things you already provided, it's not uncommon, especially with offshore applications. Whenever you're dealing with offshore applications, you're dealing with offshore-based case officers. So at Australian consulates and embassies overseas, they are notoriously unpredictable and notoriously inconsistent in really the quality of their assessment. And it increases the likelihood of people getting requested really random things and things that have already been provided. So it's not surprising to hear necessarily. It's not concerning necessarily, depending what was asked for. But based on what you've told me, I'm not concerned about the case. It's just the nature of having applied for an offshore application. Now, what I could recommend you do is make sure you've addressed the request, make sure you press the button, and send an online inquiry.